So there's a lot of you that said we should not be using concrete in conjunction with wood. And to those people that said that, I congratulate you. You are one of the few people that finally realized that that is not the best way to do a fence. But today, one of the things that we got told is that we should be backfilling our entire post with gravel. So we're gonna try backfilling the entire post, tamping it with gravel, and we're gonna see how that works. I really don't know what to expect. I've never done it, but you asked for it, here it is. The other thing is if I cut this post open, you'd probably find that this treatment is only going in the post maybe yay far. Very, very poorly treated. They're just trying to make it look like it's treated, get it out to the store and sell it to you and have you install that, and then you can't figure out why your fence failed in 5 years and it's rotted off. Well, not all posts are treated the same, and the cheaper it is, the better chance that it's not treated correctly. And when we couple that with concrete, which is going to hold that moisture right up against the post for its entire life, that's a really bad combination, not to mention the lye and the things that are in that concrete that are actually trying to eat that wood as well. Our suggestion is that if you're going to put wood in the ground, it's best not to use concrete if you can at all avoid it. The best thing to do is backfill with just organic soil that comes out of the hole. But today, we're gonna see if you can actually backfill a post with gravel. I have my own opinions about what's gonna happen here, but we're gonna give it a try. You might recognize this hole. Today is the same day that we dug this hole using 3 different methods, and if you want to check that video out, check that out right over here where we compared using post hole diggers, pressure washer, and a good old bar and shovel to dig holes. Anyhow, I hate to let a good hole go to waste, and so we thought, you know what, this would be the perfect place to put a post in it and test out this method, and that's exactly what we're gonna do. This is actually what we like to call road base. I just went and scraped it off our yard right over here behind me. Tried to get mostly gravel, but we could have some dirt in there. And it's not really dirt, it's gonna be more of a sand. When you're tamping a post in, the most important thing is to get it solid. And the most important part of getting it solid is the very top and the very bottom, because that's where the ground is gonna wanna move. It's gonna wanna move right here and at the very bottom. So don't put in too much. So we put in some lifts. And if you're doing a spec job, they'll tell you what lifts you have to compact in. Usually like 6-inch lifts. If you know anything about gravel, the reason they use gravel is because it does not settle. The bad thing is, I can hit this thing with a bar all I want, and it's only gonna get so tight. There were some people that said to use like crushed limestone. There were also people that said we should use solid pea gravel. I don't know if I'm plumb. It's not plumb, it needs to go that way. Maybe I should go get a level when we're done and see how close I was. Still not plumb. Oh, we're pretty close there. I am gonna go get a level when we get done with this, just to see if I'm right. As you can see, this isn't really great gravel. It's not solid gravel. There's a little more dirt in this than I would like. And if you're gonna tamp, I see a lot of people that wanna grab a bar like this and do this. That's really hard. Just use your shoulders, hold it together, and use your shoulders and your arms to put that force in the ground. And right at the base of the post. If I had a giant hole, I don't wanna be over here necessarily. I wanna be right up next to the post and get all that compacted. Feels decent. I wish it was a little more gravelly, but. Well, I think that's probably it. We can chicken dance it, finish it off. Well, that's a post. You wanna pull this post for me? I'm just gonna plumb it up. I just wanna, yeah, we're good now. Okay, check it both ways and see. Ooh, would you look at that? That's acceptable. And that is also acceptable. So if you want a cheat way and you're just doing one thing and you forget your level, you can use a good straight bar as your level line and just sight down the level of the post and get it pretty dang good and straight. This is plumb. Now, what I worry about when we fill something with nothing but gravel, the problem is there's nothing there to bite into it, and that gravel can move around, and we can use that gravel as leverage to pull this post out. If I tamp this post into really good solid clay ground, like we might do that right over here, and it's gonna be very difficult to pull and get out of the ground. But I think with gravel, especially pea gravel, and the finer the gravel we have, the easier it is to pull out, because the wind's gonna hit this and loosen it up, and then it vibrates back and forth, and all of a sudden, despite the fact that I worked really hard to tamp that, it can only tamp so great. And so we've already got looseness right here, just with using pretty minimal amounts of force. And that's another reason that we use the engineered Trident posts, is because these are so rigid, it's transferring all that movement all the way down into the very base of the ground. Whereas a Trident post with that flexibility is not transferring that all the way, that movement all the way to the very base of the post 3 feet in the ground. This, because it's super rigid, is. That's the only thing it can do, is move the bottom of the post around. But you can see we're already loose. We've already got plenty of movement. You can see down here, as I wiggle this, there's, shoot, 3/8 of an inch of play here, and I can feel it moving all the way down in the bottom. And I bet, without too much trouble, I can probably pull this right back out. The one thing I will say that's saving this post altogether is that little bit of dirt that's in there. That little bit of dirt is actually doing a better job of binding and getting in the small cracks of that gravel and holding this post where it belongs than if we just had solid gravel all the way down. And I don't care if you can necessarily pull it out, but this movement, this is going to lead to bad things over time, and this is when you're going to get a crooked fence, which is why so many people have crooked fences. Not to mention when it dries out, it's going to warp, and that's not going to help at all either. You know what doesn't warp? Steel. Steel doesn't warp. Oh yeah, she's coming. And this one's 3 feet in the ground. A lot of you folks are only doing 2 feet. Imagine how easy this would be to pull out in 2 feet. You know that knot I pointed out? That's actually probably making things more difficult. It'd actually be easier to pull this out if it was good and square. Oh yeah, once I got that knot out, we came shooting out of the ground. These depressions actually make it tougher to pull out. So let me tell you where I have used road base. Not gravel, but road base. If we have a lot of water or really, really soft, muddy ground, I will fill it with road base because it'll squish in there and it actually has the fines to bind. But you never want to put just solid gravel in a hole. It's going to be super loose, be very prone to wind damage and things like that. It's just not a good idea. You need to fill in all those voids between the rocks as well, or you'll have a fence failure. Now, since we're here, you know what we should do? I got that hole right there. I'm only going to set this in 2 feet because we only dug that one to 2 feet deep with the pressure washer. One thing I really hate doing is digging holes for no reason and no purpose, so we're going to go ahead and put a post in that. And I figured rather than fill this one with gravel, what we're going to do is we're going to fill it with the native fill over here. And luckily it rained just a little bit, so it'll be a little bit gummy, and we'll show you how much different it is filling it with native soil versus the gravel. And my bet is that I will have a tough time trying to pull this out if I pack this in here well, even though it's a foot shorter than that one. So we have less post in the ground, but I think we'll have a harder time pulling this out. If you absolutely have to use wood, this would be my preferred method. Again, if you have to use wood and you can't drive it, because if I can drive it, I'm driving it. And that's gonna be 10 times better because I didn't loosen any soil. And you can never get the soil packed as tight as when it came out of the hole, but this would be second best if I'm gonna use wood. And if you're gonna tamp posts that very little bit, only put about 6 inches in the very bottom and then tamp very gently, because you can actually move the bottom of your post and then you end up with a post that's not in line with your string. Very easy. So start very light, pack it, one hand, go all the way around. And that's why it's important to make sure your hole's big enough to get your tamping bar all the way around it so you don't have one side that didn't get packed good enough. And this hole is almost perfect for doing this. As we're coming up, we'll check our plumb, because as we fill this, it'll get harder and harder to get straightened out if we get off. Then we're not going to get too carried away putting all the dirt in there. Pack it in small enough lifts that you can get it compacted really well. It's another thing to watch out for, like leaves, vegetation. You do not want to put that in your hole because it won't compact. You want nothing but dirt. Rocks are fine. You can put rocks in there. It's pretty close. So if I need to move a post one way or another, this is my favorite way. I put it on the side of the post and need to move it. I'll just drive that rock down in there. That makes it super tight and it'll actually help correct. Oh yeah, we got it. And then we're gonna pack the top really good. Okay, that's all I'm gonna give it. Now should we try and pull it out? I really don't feel like it, if I'm being honest. Oh, I'm getting it. This moved more than I thought it would. Oh yeah. It's not great. It's not great. I thought I could do better than this. Oh, I'll get it. I can tell already. Okay, there you go. Well, it was okay. Still not great. Is it better than the gravel? Probably about the same. I'm guessing if I would have dug that hole 3 feet deep, it would have been that much harder to pull that out. That was only 2 feet in the ground. Maybe I should have went 3 feet just to really give it apples to apples, but I got lazy. And for that, I apologize. I shortchanged you. I won't do that again. It's a bummer. But if I was gonna put that post in the ground, I'd rather just drive it and then it'd be in there nice and solid. As always, I'm Mark with SWI in Wyoming. We're Wyoming's fence company, and I hope you have a good dang day.